So I wanted to try a little bit different approach to lunging with Sebastian. So I'd seen Mustang Maddie do this and I wanted to try it out with him. It's just having like a little bit of a target square, and then you kind of, the idea is that every time he passes a cone, like with his shoulder, I click and reinforce. So it's kind of him having to walk around the cones. And like make it to a certain point um, before I click and reinforce versus using the target itself. So really once he's past that cone, I'm going to click and then feed. And this seemed to work decently well. Like he's going forward off my go forward cues, and I want him to go past that cone, and then I'll click and feed. And then it kind of gave him a little bit of a barrier as well, to where he's not coming in and being as close to me. Like eventually my goal was to, space those cones out a little bit. So again, he did the same kind of thing. He just goes on to the next cone. I'm just kind of adjusting here, seeing what works best. Ask him to go on. And I just want him to go past this cone. He's a little confused. He's thinking, maybe go look in that bowl for food. I'm just going to show him. Come over here. And I probably should have just clicked after that first cone because he doesn't understand this lesson quite yet. But I helped him out with the target instead. But really what I want is kind of like that shoulder to go past the next cone. So this next cone here to my left, I want him to just go past that. Right here, I'm going to click and reinforce. So the goal is to get him to each cone and then eventually 2 cones, 3 cones until he can go all the way around the circle. This actually worked pretty decent with him, getting him to go forward a little bit more. Um, so we're just kind of playing with different ideas. You don't have to have them follow the handheld target. That's not completely necessary. That's usually the easiest way to do it. But he just seemed really unmotivated to really get that target. And I think just increasing my food value a little bit would have helped, and probably doing a little bit less repetition because I was doing a little bit too much and probably asking for a bit too much. They seem to catch on to this pretty quickly here. So I'm going to ask him to do the same thing the other direction, which he's pretty good about changing those directions. I want a little bit more. There, I'm going to click and feed that. But really, like, you can still tell with this exercise, he's just kind of giving me minimum amount of effort here. So probably with this exercise as well, I could have increased that value, that food value, so he'd want to be a little bit more motivated to go forward because he just really isn't. He's just too smart for his own good, honestly. He'll do the minimum in order to get that reinforcement, and I'm reinforcing that, so it's just going to continue on like that. That was pretty good. But yeah, I should be really looking for moments where he's got a little bit more energy. I think just increasing that value is going to help. He's going to want to try a little bit harder for like those low carb cookies, and I think that's really the key here for him. Because you can see here too that I'm having to re-cue him twice. Like I don't really want to be doing that. So, and that's the tough thing that I ran into with this exercise is I didn't want to be re-cueing. Like here, he's just not even going past the cone. I'm having to re-cue a bunch of times, and I didn't like all that latency in there where he's like barely going. Um, and you kind of needed that with the cones because you had to get some forward movement in order for him to get to that next cone. So there, that was better. But see, he's not even getting to the cone there. There. So now I'm having to re-cue before he even gets to that second cone. And really, they're not spaced far apart. It's like one pony length away. So he can definitely do it. It's not like too difficult for him. He's just like, like barely moving. That was better. He got to that next cone. I mean, he's definitely a quick learner. It's just trying to get the most out of him, which is usually not the case with clicker training. Usually I'm having to kind of calm the horse down and be like, okay, let's do less. But for Sebastian, he really wants to do the bare minimum. So give him a little break here, give him a little jackpot. I let him eat out of that bucket for a little bit. I'm just going to cut that out, and then we're going to work a little bit more with the cones. So ask him to go the other direction using my target. That looks so much better. He was a lot more forward there. He's willing to go and walk and actually move out. So maybe using a combo of these cones and the handheld target would work best. So you can see he's really moving more. So he's definitely has more experience with the handheld target. He's wanting to go and touch that. So maybe using that combo of both of them is going to work a little bit better. That, yeah, it looks better already. Because I really don't want to be cueing twice with my walk on and then my hand pointing, and then he goes a little bit and then I re-cue him. I really don't want to be doing that very much. And using the target is definitely going to help that and be in place of that. There we go. It really helped him out. And I think in the beginning of this lesson, I was like, oh, he's just going to figure out the cones and it's going to be fine. And I was kind of hesitant to use the target, but you can definitely tell here that he's moving out a lot more when I do have that handheld target. So I think a combination of these is going to be best. And then again, if I was retraining this again, I want that little bit higher value food for him because I want him to really have a bit more motivation in going forward. Yeah, as soon as that handheld target comes out, you can see him really walk forward and step out a little bit more. So that looks pretty nice. I want to keep these sessions pretty short. Like I think this video is about 6 minutes long or so, because I don't want him to do too much and get a little bit bored because that's what he tends to do. That looks good. So he's kind of going a couple more cones here. Whoop, went on the inside. That's okay. I'll ask him to back up and go back around. No big deal. That looks pretty good. I mean, he's maybe getting a little bit frustrated going to that target, which is another thing I need to work on. I haven't been reinforcing him for touching it. Like I have been reinforcing him for following it, but he does get a little frustrated with it. So maybe I'm moving it too fast. So again, we're kind of playing with that and trying to build better emotions around going the target. So we even had a little bit of a trot there. So it's still kind of a work in progress here.